How I fell down into resentment. That is such a good question. That is such a... Well, I have the answer. So, my God, that is such a good question. All the videos that I have been making has all been about resentment. That theme right now is consuming my life in such a nice way. You know, overcoming resentment. You have to really study something in order to let go of it. So my life right now is really a huge study of resentment, which is, hey, it's quite nice. I have to say, you know, everything I'm learning from it. Anyway, how did I fall down from resentment? No, how did I fall down to resentment? It started happening, so I started going to Tim a couple of times a week. I'm just gonna share my experience of what happened inside of me. So in the beginning, I came with a friendship. You know, I was like, hey, let's be friends, man. You know, we're here, so we're two human beings, whatever circumstances. And I was really offering my friendship, and I was really offering my value. I was really offering my value. I quickly learned that Tim had a shadow that I did not see in the beginning. And everyone has a shadow, you know. There's nothing wrong with having a shadow. There's nothing wrong with Tim for having a shadow. I have a shadow. Jesus had no shadow, but he's Jesus. So we all have shadows. No shame in having a shadow. I did not see his shadow in the beginning, and then his shadow started coming forth. My boundary was being crossed. I was in a state of my life where I did not know how to put up my boundary, right? So my boundary kept on getting crossed, and I would get so angry that I would shake. I would shake of anger. The first time I was like, oh, you know, really... I didn't know what quite to do with it, so I was also putting face to face with this new side of me, of shaking with frustrations, of shaking with anger. Never experienced that in myself before. So coming face to face with that was also a huge deal for me. Then I was like, okay, so what? I started then not wanting to go to Tim. But I was also like, you know, like having to be the bigger man and having to... I'm here to do service, and I was like, having to do service, you know, I want to do my service. I want to do my bidding, and he was needing me. He was in need of me. And we also did have some kind of a friendship, you know. So it was like this weird pull back and forth. I did not know how to set my boundary. My boundary was being crossed. I didn't quite do anything with it, because I was like, well, Tim's having a hard time, I understand. And then after this had happened a lot, I was actually really resisting going there. I was having a hard time going there. And I was like, well, what can I learn from this? And, you know, I really started asking the question. Also having the, you know, awareness of lessons. I was like, what do I have to learn from this? And it became quite clear to me that I had to learn to put up my boundary. You know, I could say, you, Tim, I don't want to be here when you are crossing my boundary all of the time, so you, I'm leaving. But he was needing me, so I was like, I cannot do that to another human being. I would really feel like it was against my morals. So I was taking like the hard fight of actually putting up my boundary. And then I did that. I put up my boundary, like in a really hard way. It was a huge conflict, and really, I really put it up. It was a crazy experience. For my own personal development, like it was a huge achievement. I have never put up my boundary like that. And then everything was okay. I felt okay. I was like, oh, the anger and the frustration, I literally felt it just disappearing. I had put up my boundary, and we became friends again. And then I was feeling good, you know? I was like, wow, now there's no problem. Until a problem came the next time. I was like, what is going on? I put up my boundary, and right now my boundary is being crossed again. I was like putting up my boundary again. And then that was fine, and you know, Tim said sorry, I said sorry, then we became friends again. But I was really starting to feel uncomfortable. I had been feeling uncomfortable before too. But that disappeared the first time I put up my boundary. But I was so uncomfortable being there. And then this became a regular thing. Before I knew it, my mind was in a state of conflict. I was seeing conflict everywhere. The only thing I was thinking about was conflict. My heart was beating, my pulse was high. It was hard to... it consumed my energy. It really did consume my energy. So I did not have any energy of what I wanted to do. I just started Be Happy back then, and I did not have any energy to make videos. Also, the videos I was making, I was not enjoying them. Anyway, yeah, where did I come to? So I was thinking conflict all of the time, and I was really, here the anger and the resentment really started. I was not aware of it at the time. Also, like, I was doing a lot of things for Tim. It felt like then I would build up something for him, and then he would just say no and destroy it. And I was like, whew. Then I'm reminded about the poem of Mother Teresa. What you have taken years to build, someone can destroy in a night. Build anyway. I did not use years to build this, but you still know, like, yeah, then I really started getting mad, really started getting resentful before I knew it. Right? Before I knew it, I was blaming. Yeah, see, I was blaming. So it was not me that was wrong. It was not me who was resentful. I was blaming. Which kind of made me guilt-free and made me not take any responsibility in the matter. Like, so resentment is a poison. I have really come to see resentment as a poison, and it is dangerous. Resentment is dangerous. And I did not see the danger. I really did not. So I would come home for Tim, and then I would tell my grandmother about Tim and all of the things that Tim did to me, against me, you could say. You know, all of the things he did wrong. Then he said this, then he said this, and then I said that. So it became this huge drama, and we would literally talk for hours about Tim. I was only talking about the conflicts. I was kind of aware, like, oh, I also have to talk about the good stuff. I'm only talking about the bad stuff right now, but not that aware, really. Then I would be with my family, and guess what I would talk about? For hours. I would talk about all of the conflicts I had with Tim. I'll talk about all of the ways that he crossed my boundary, that he's not allowed to behave like that, and blah, blah, blah. Blame, blame, blame. So that was really, that was really the beginning of it. I was not aware of this at the time. I became aware of it, and when I did, it was a huge shocker for me. So because I was blaming him so much, I was being resentful to him at this time. I did not know. I did not have the awareness of that. I was like, me? Resentful? Like, I've been practicing spirituality for many years. I'm not being resentful. You know, it's him. Honest to God, that was my, opinion. Okay, so what happened was, and again, I was unaware of this. What I then would do, I would start behaving in a way that was triggering him. So I was wanting to punish him because he was doing me wrong. So I was wanting to do justice. I don't know, wanting to punish him. And I was punishing him. But here's how I did it. I did it in a way where it was like under the table. Right? So I was not telling him anything wrong. I was not telling him bad stuff. I'm not saying anything ugly about him. But I was behaving in a way that was triggering him. Then he would burst out and a huge conflict would be created. And I would look innocent because he's the one bursting out and he could not behave himself. So he was crossing my boundary and telling me bad stuff. And then I was using that against him. Being like, you did this, you did this, you did this, and I did you nothing. So I was using that against him. So he would then feel very guilty, and I was doing that as a punishment, right? So then he will go into self-hate, and I would be like, don't hate yourself, then I would be the good guy. So I would also change in this, so I would be like, on the surface, I would be a good guy, but under the table, I would be stabbing and triggering. A way of punishing him was being silent. And in my mind, I was justifying my silence with, I'm not gonna participate in what he's doing right now. But what was I doing? I was participating, and I was punishing him. And he would get so triggered, and in my mind, I would be like, yeah, you deserve that, you. So I was punishing him. And then when he was behaving, when he was bursting out in anger and in his behavior, in my mind I was justifying it. I was like, yeah, you I was using that in order to recognize that my judgment of him was correct And then I would be punishing him even more without feeling guilty or anything, you know, because I was doing it under the table, even for myself. I was not aware of it. And I was crossing his boundary. I really have to recognize that, you know. I was really crossing his boundary. In my mind, it was, I'm not putting up with your shit. But what it truly was I'm punishing you. And he would burst out, you know, being triggered. He would burst out in anger. Huge conflict would have been created. I would seemingly look innocent. And I would even tell him, I was like, I have not acted outside of my moral. So I'm not telling you sorry. Yeah, man, it's been a roller coaster and it's not been nice. It's not been nice for him and it's not been nice for me, really. Now, in this point of time, I am so deep in the resentment and I'm not even aware of it. I am hating every time I go there. I am hating when I get home. Days go by and I'm looking towards like next time in resentment and in heaviness and like, it's already in a week. You know, is the cup half full or is the cup half empty, right? My cup was half empty. So yeah, I was so deep in the resentment. I was away for a month in Ecuador, literally on the other side of the earth to be with my girlfriend. Being in love with her and, you know, having a loving time with her, but I was still resentful. Every single day. I was angry and resentful every single day. And I would complain every single day and I would blame every single day. I was on the other side of the earth, yet I was still resentful. And I was not aware that it was me, right? I was not aware that it was me. I was still blaming. I was still pointing. I did not have the awareness. Anyway, so everything started to change. I started to become aware. I started to become aware because he told me something. I don't remember what he told me. I think he commented on my behavior. And at first I was like, my behavior is innocent. I'm not acting outside of my moral. But then I was reflecting upon it and I was like, I'm not behaving nicely towards him right now. I am punishing him. I started to realize that I was punishing him. I started to realize, holy f***ing shit, I'm bleeping that out. I am the one creating the conflicts. Because by creating conflicts, listen to all of the birds. Because by creating conflicts, oh my God. By creating conflicts, I was taking my attention. Wow. Can you hear them? I hope you can. Anyway. So many birds right now. Anyway, so bye. Because bye. I don't know. Because okay. Because by creating conflicts and by making it look like that he was creating conflicts, I was justifying my behavior towards him. Man, so it was so crucial for me to learn. It was so crucial for me to understand. And I really started to see that's what I'm doing. And then he told me something. He told me he felt like I was watching him. Which is fun, because I have that feeling with him and me. Like, I feel like he's watching me. But he was like, he really felt that I was watching him. And I got really mad. But I really took it in. And I really reflected. I was like, yeah, I'm really watching you. Like, he could not say anything right. He could not say anything right. I was literally looking for something to get triggered by. So I would get mad and I would start punish him under the table. So he would get mad and his behavior would be explosive. And I would then justify my behavior towards that, punishing him, and he would be guilty and hating himself. I started seeing it is me. It is me who's creating all of the conflicts. That was hard, man, because in my mind I was innocent. You know, I was not acting outside of my moral, but I was. Yeah, and all of the investment that I had in my blame, and all of the investment that I had in, like, it was him and he was wrong, he was crossing my boundary. It's the other way around. I was crossing his boundary. so much. Oh my God. That was so hard to acknowledge. I'm so spiritual, so me being resentful? Whoa. But I was like, okay, so then I have to change my behavior. I am creating the conflicts. But I was so deep in the resentment and so deep in the blame that I didn't know how to do it. I was like, but Tim is making me feel this way. Tim is pushing all of my buttons and making me feel this way. How do I overcome this when he's behaving the way he's behaving? And then Dr. Wayne Dyer came into my life. What a huge teacher. What a grand teacher. And he said, which I have said in every single video I've made about resentment now, he said, when you squeeze an orange juice comes out of the orange because it's orange juice that is inside of the orange. And the law of nature is only that which is inside is that which can come out. So then taking a step further and saying, well, I am being squeezed in my life. And what comes out? Anger, hatred, frustration, resentment, and violence, and so on and so forth. So then I was like, whoa. So the reason why I am resentful is because that is what is inside of me. I was not aware of that. I thought I was being resentful because of his behavior, because of the circumstances. I was being resentful because that was what because that was what was inside of me. Because that was what was inside of me. That was why I was being angry, hateful, and resentful. That was hard to swallow. That was so hard to swallow. Then that also changed everything. Then he also says, there are no justified resentments. There are no justified resentments. But I was being so resentful, and I was justifying my resentfulness. But really listening to the teacher, I took it in, and really there are no justified resentment. And he also said responding with love to hate. And it got so clear for me that I cannot respond with love to hate right now. So what do? I change what is inside of me. How do I do that? By letting it go. By forgiving and letting it go. Alright, but I can't forgive because I'm so resentful. But forgiveness is not between me and them. As the poem of Mother Teresa, in the end, it's between you and your Lord. It was never between you and them anyway, right? So, woo. Birds again. Anyway, what was I saying? But I could not forgive because I was so resentful. This resentment, it's not between me and Tim, it's between me and the Lord. Not that I'm resentful towards the Lord, but overcoming it, but growing as a person, but growing as a spiritual being. When someone is pushing all of your buttons, when someone is triggering you, when someone is getting that anger and resentfulness out of you, they are your teacher and they are showing you, in this moment, you do not master yourself. Here, your mind is yet impure. So now Tim is my teacher. Oh. Yeah. So now Tim is my teacher. So here I am today. How did I fall down into resentment? To summarize it, I did not put up my boundary when I was frustrated, and my frustration became hate. My hate became resentment. And when I really fell down was that my resentment became a way of being when I'm with him, where I am punishing him for who he is, and I'm justifying my resentment and my punishment with his behavior. My punishment triggering him and creating in him that behavior that I'm resenting. So then I would punish him more, I would resent him more, blame him more, and justify it more. That was really when I started going deep into resentment. Yeah, and so that was how I fell in. How did I come up? Forgive, forgive, forgive. I will keep on forgiving until there's nothing left to forgive. And when I leave, we are parting as friends. That is my intention. That is my goal. And that is what will happen. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. It was just me talking. I didn't prepare anything. I was just, let's talk about how I fell into resentment. So I hope you enjoyed. If you do, then make sure to hit that like button. Oh my god. If you want to follow more, then hit that subscribe button. And yeah, if you have any comments, leave a comment. If you have any questions, ask a question, and if you want to share about your experience with resentment or other, then yeah, throw a comment. And have a really good day. I am wishing you the best. God bless you, and of course, be happy.